You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
The earthquake is real as Trump's worst nightmare unfolds, based on an article by Tom Hartman. Voters just rejected the party of donor discipline. The warning in New York. The source story is about a Democratic primary revolt in New York. Mamdani-backed progressives beat sitting Democrats. An open seat went to another progressive, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries lost 3 contests he actively opposed. That is the frame worth keeping. The real event is not that socialists won. It is that party elites tried to stop them and got outvoted. Who has power here? The people with actual institutional power in the story are not the candidates the press likes to caricature. They are the donors, the consultants, the leadership class, and the committee apparatus that keeps trying to narrow democracy into a managed asset class. Jeffries is named in the source as someone backed by dark money and AIPAC money, which matters because it shows the power structure. Plainly, money was on one side, voters on the other, and money still lost. That is the party an establishment cannot absorb. It has built a politics that assumes ordinary Democrats can be instructed, panicked, and sanded down into compliance. Tuesday night said otherwise. What the winners actually ran on. The source spells out the platform of Medicare for all, affordable housing, stronger union protections, and an end to U.S. military support for Israel's assault on Gaza. None of that is mystical. It is material politics aimed at the conditions people actually live under: rent, wages, health care, and war. Calling that radical is misdirection. A country where a full-time worker can live without fear of medical bankruptcy is not an extremist demand. It is the minimum standard of a functioning democracy. The scandal is not that these candidates ran on that agenda. The scandal is that so many Democratic leaders still act as if a livable life is politically embarrassing. The usual smear is doing the work. The corporate press and Republican attack line in the source is the familiar one of socialists as a synonym for menace. That language is not analysis. It is a panic tactic designed to hide the fact that the actual program is popular and legible. More revealing is how thoroughly the establishment depends on that smear. It cannot defend a donor-captured status quo on the merits, so it changes the subject. It makes housing, wages, and health care sound exotic while treating billionaire rule as normal. That is not confusion. It is a defense mechanism for a political class that no longer wants to answer to its own base. The state's repressive term. The source also points to the harder edge of this politics. Trump's DOJ prosecuting anti-ICE protesters in Minnesota on conspiracy charges, while federal agents who killed 2 American citizens during the Operation Walk Free, and a Texas jury handing protesters decades in prison on terrorism charges. That is not neutral law enforcement. It is selective punishment aimed at disciplining dissent. ICE belongs in the same category. If the country is serious about democracy, ICE should be abolished, not cosmetically reformed. Agencies built to terrorize immigrants and criminalize solidarity do not become humane because a consultant writes a better training memo. They exist to enforce a hierarchy. The source makes that plain. The larger pattern. What this story reveals is a split between 2 projects inside American politics. One is an oligarchic project that protects donor power, normalizes repression, and hides behind technocratic language. The other is a democratic project trying to restore material security and make government answer to people rather than capital. That is why the New York primaries matter. They are not a curiosity and they are not a mood. They are evidence that voters understand what the consultant class pretends not to see. The crisis is not left versus center, or moderation versus enthusiasm. The crisis is whether the Democratic coalition serves democracy or continues laundering oligarchy and softer language. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of John, thanks for listening.